For 3 seasons, I've been on YouTube, and for 3 seasons, we've made this exact same video. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and that's a wrap on the 2024 Boston Red Sox, folks. I mean, technically, they have 3 games left to finish out the 2024 season, but as of last night, they've officially been eliminated from playoff contention. Not really a surprise to anybody, but still, it's a full wrap on the 2024 season, meaning it's on to 2025. And so, what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to break this down a little bit. We're going to go on a bit of a rant about the 2024 Red Sox and what happened this season, and more importantly, we're going to talk about what happens now. They've got a ton of time before free agency and the offseason begins. What can they do to better themselves before that happens? Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. I don't think it's really a surprise to anyone that the Red Sox have been officially eliminated from postseason contention. It feels like, for the most part, they really haven't been a truly competitive team since, I would say, August at the bare minimum, probably a little bit earlier than that. It feels like they've been out of contention for a while, so it's not too surprising the Red Sox have been officially eliminated. I will give them some credit, though. They stuck around this year longer than they did the last couple of years game-wise, right? There was like a week and a half in 22, was about the same in 2023. This year, you only had 3 games left until you were officially eliminated, so you got to give them credit where credit is due. And I will say, I think there's some reason for optimism with this Red Sox team. I think there is a different feel coming out of this season than there have been in seasons in the past. Specifically, these last couple of years, 22, you didn't really know what the future was going to hold. It felt like you immediately were going to lose 3 major core pieces to the Boston Red Sox in Xander Bogaerts, JD Martinez, and Nate Eovaldi, right? Remember that last game where they all came out, they hugged, they acknowledged the fans? It really didn't feel like those guys were coming back. 2023, you're getting eliminated while also firing Chaim Bloom. Alex Cora is going into the last year of his contract. You felt like you had no idea what the future was going to hold there. This year's a little bit different because you do know what the future is going to hold. Because this season in particular, the biggest positive to take out of it is that you've developed a foundation. You have a core in this team, and it's only going to grow as guys in the minor leagues start producing at the major league level. Big names in the minor leagues start producing at the major league level. You can clearly see the path that the Red Sox need to go down in order to be competitive in Major League Baseball again, and that is a stark difference between what has gone on over the last couple of years and what is going on going into this offseason. Now, the question becomes whether or not ownership is going to be willing to walk that path, whether or not ownership is going to be willing to stay on the path that they're on or deviate from it, to take a shortcut or to get closer towards their end goals. I gotta be honest with you, I'm not exactly confident that they're going to do that, but still, that path is laid down in front of them, and that is a really solid sign. So regardless of the fact that this is the 3rd season in a row that we are making this exact same video, I do think the feeling is a bit different. I do think that is something positive us as Red Sox fans can take out of this season, but don't mistake my optimism for acceptance as to what is going on. Steve Peralt had a fantastic tweet last night after the Red Sox got officially eliminated. Since 2019, the Red Sox have missed the playoffs 5 out of 6 years. Granted, 2020 doesn't really count all that much, but still, they missed the playoffs then as well. That is absolutely unacceptable for the Boston Red Sox, and I get it, right? There are teams that are out there that are in much worse positions than the Red Sox currently are, especially heading into next season. There have been stretches within the own organization over its long historic history that have been much worse than this has been, but at the end of the day, for the 3rd biggest franchise in the entire sport, the 3rd most valuable franchise in the entire sport, it is just simply unacceptable. We could sit here in this video and we could dissect what went wrong player-wise, who dropped the ball in terms of the roster itself. We could talk about the moves that Craig Breslow made. We could talk about the decisions Alex Cora had during this season and how that impacted the Red Sox not making the postseason. But at the end of the day, the answer is extremely simple. The answer is John Henry for the 3rd season in a row and 5 out of 6 years just simply has not done enough to supplement the talent on this team in order to get it to the next level. We could debate all we want, but at the end of the day, the answer is simple, and that is simply FSG refuses to do the job that they need to do to be the owners of the third most valuable team in baseball, right? It's a different story. You could take a look and say, well, the Reds or the A's have it worse than us in terms of their ownership group, and you'd absolutely be right, but there is a difference in expectations between the Cincinnati Reds, who have, the 28th, 29th lowest market in the entire sport, and the Boston Red Sox, who are sitting in the top 3. It is absolutely, unequivocally unacceptable that for the third year in a row, we are having a conversation that we are sitting here trying to pick out positives of a losing season, because regardless of the positives that you could take out of this season, and there are plenty, absolutely, it is ultimately a failure that this Red Sox team did not, one, compete for a division or really compete for a wild card spot at the end of the day. They had stretches this season where they were competing for both, but they weren't able to do that consistently, and that ultimately falls squarely on the shoulders of John Henry. And again, I don't know if that's going to get any better. I don't know if we're coming into this offseason under the exact same parameters we came into last offseason, and I assume they're going to. I assume they're going to have a similar budget. I assume they're going to have a similar ideology when it comes to how they're going to make additions to this Boston Red Sox team. And it's unbelievably sad, isn't it? It's sad as a Red Sox fan that we're sitting here trying to dissect another season, ultimately, that at the end of the day is a failure. That at the end of the day, regardless of all the things you can nitpick about this team, should have been supplemented more and just simply wasn't due to budgetary restrictions. So regardless of how optimistic this season is and how optimistic I am going into the offseason, it is an absolute failure by this ownership group that the Boston Red Sox are not competitive for the third year in a row by the end of September. It just simply cannot keep happening. Red Sox fans need to demand better. We as Red Sox fans deserve better than what we've been getting from this Red Sox team over the last couple of years. But we could also sit here and we can go over just how miserable it's been to be a Red Sox fan since basically 2018. But instead, I think it's more important to focus on what comes next. I think it's more important, instead of just sitting here complaining, to try and figure out what the next path towards the next great Red Sox team is going to be. So that's exactly what we're going to do. But before we get into that, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Just simply helps these videos out a ton, and it's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Thank you all very much for taking a second to doing so. Let's get into what next. I actually think what comes next for the Red Sox is going to be absolutely fascinating. Because of their failure in 2024, the Red Sox have a unique position where they have the ability to really formulate a plan coming into the 2025 offseason. Not that these other teams who are going into the playoffs don't have the opportunity to do that as well, but they have the opportunity to do that without any added distractions. So I guess there's the positive there. But to me, this means a couple of things immediately for the Boston Red Sox. One is deciding whether or not you're going to be willing to pay or bring back any of the current free agents on your team. That includes Chris Martin, Nick Pivetta, Tyler O'Neill, Danny Jansen, Luis Garcia, Lucas Sims, and Kenley Jansen. Right now, they essentially have exclusive negotiating rights to these players. We are assuming, because it's most likely reality, that the Red Sox are going to be under some sort of budgetary restrictions coming into 2025. And if you are interested in bringing one of these guys back and making them a sort of not pillar, but help in terms of the next great Red Sox team, it might be a smart idea to try and get these guys locked into an extension before they hit free agency. It gives you a clearer picture of what your budget is going to look like coming into 2025. It also just sort of gets something out of the way. You don't have to deal with it once the open market begins, and that could be something that the Red Sox focus on. It should be something that the Red Sox focus on only if they are willing or wanting to bring back any of these guys. There's a legitimate discussion with all of these guys as to why they shouldn't be on the team next year, but if the Red Sox do want any of them, now's a prime time to get talking. The second thing they can do during this time period between when the playoffs start and when the playoffs end is focus on whether or not they want to extend any of their younger players. Now, obviously, these guys are going to be here regardless of whether or not you could get a deal done before the 2025 offseason, but again, you talk about those budgetary restrictions. If extensions play a part in that, it's it's going to be a whole lot easier to get a more clear picture of what you need or what you can attack during this offseason if you have these guys under contract. In my opinion, the two guys that stick out for that would be Tanner Houck and Triston Casas. Now, there's arguments to be made about other players on this team, but to me, those are the two guys that really stick out in different ways. Triston would be more of a long-term deal to ensure that he's here for a longer period of time. Tanner Houck would be one that you buy out the rest of his arbitration so you could sort of solidify the cost of a top-ish and rotational arm for the next couple of years. And I think both of those would be really solid moves for the Red Sox to make before they get into free agency or before they get into really sort of wheeling and dealing here as they get into the offseason. So you do have a couple of things to pay attention to as the Red Sox get towards the offseason. I also think one thing to also pay attention to is possibly a shakeup in their coaching staff. I know Craig Breslow did an interview yesterday that we are absolutely going to be talking about tomorrow on this channel. We're going to go over every single one of the quotes he had in there because there is some absolutely fascinating stuff as it relates to what their plan may be coming into the offseason. But one of the things he mentioned is he's going to sit down with Alex Cora, figure out what's working, what's not working, and if changes are needed in their coaching staff. And I think a big name on the hot seat right now is Pete Fatsi. With all of the strikeout issues the Red Sox have had this year, I think that could be someone who ends up as sort of the scapegoat for that situation. So there are some things to pay attention to here between the Red Sox getting eliminated and the Red Sox heading into the offseason. But ultimately, what the Red Sox need to utilize this time for is to understand their failure, to understand why they failed this season, to understand what went wrong for this Red Sox team, and to understand how to better that in the future. I am so sick and tired of every single offseason that we have covered on this channel, starting with some grand promise, starting with some grand explanation from either the front office or the ownership of this group, and then ending up nowhere near what was promised. Here's what I truly want from the Red Sox during this time period. I want them to formulate a plan, I want them to shut the hell up, and I want them to execute it. I don't want those conversations to be had. I'm sure they're going to be had because there's just simply too much time in between when they're eliminated and when the offseason begins to not have some of those, quote. But I would love it so much if the Red Sox just simply didn't really say anything about what was going to happen this offseason, went out there, executed, and let those moves do the talking for them, because I think that would ultimately be the best move. And I do have some hope Craig Breslow can do that. Again, tomorrow we're going to be going over what he believes is the best route for this Red Sox team this offseason, and there's some really interesting stuff in here. In my opinion, it's mostly going to be via the trade market, so we have a whole lot to look forward to this offseason. But right now, what happens now is the Red Sox need to be able to focus on the guys that are going to become free agents if they want to bring any of them back, and seeing if there's any deals to be done with some of these younger players on this team, as well as start formulating a plan, not publicly hopefully, but formulate a plan for the 2025 offseason so they are ready to go and they have a clear direction this offseason, because I'm so sick and tired of having it bounce back and forth and ending up nowhere near what they say going into it. But at the end of the day, yet again, we are making a video about the Red Sox being eliminated, and it needs to change, and it needs to change now. This is the Boston Red Sox, the third most valuable team in the entire league. Be better. But that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below. What do you think? What do you think about the Red Sox being officially eliminated? What do you think happens now? What would you want to see the Red Sox do before the offseason opens up? Is there anything that you need them to focus on? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton. It's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Don't forget, you could also get these episodes in podcast form if you want to listen instead of watch. All you got to do is head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.